These social media companies are making billions of dollars off of killing our kids. Okay, that's why they're making up all these arguments like, oh, this is impossible, and the government's trying to destroy, and they're trying to take away your First Amendment rights. They're lying to you.
Did this governor from the United States, did he just say that social media companies were responsible for the deaths of children? Yep.
I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play. I've been on the other end of a phone call from my team asking for my help because we had received a call from the Department of Homeland Security telling us that a 7-year-old girl was being sexually abused, and that content was being spread around the dark web. And she had been being abused, and they'd watched her for 3 years, and they could not find the perpetrator, asking us for help. We were the last line of defense. An actor and his foundation were the potential last line of defense.
Jordan was a really kind individual. He was very social. He was inclusive with everybody. The kid dancing around the locker room, smiling. He played sports, was very involved in sports.
And like most kids his age, he was into social media, into Instagram. Was it anything out of the ordinary, you thought, or did you know how much he used social media, or was it ever a problem?
He had social media, but we kept social media from him for a very long time. You know, we locked his phone down. We monitored his text messages for a long time. We monitored his usage, his phone. We set all the parent restrictions through Verizon and through Apple and everything that we could do. But as he got older, he was 7 weeks away from his 18th birthday. So at that point, you know, he was already using Instagram a little bit, and, you know, he's going to be an adult. He can make his decisions here, so.
That morning, I woke up to get ready for work, and I had received a text message from Jordan that said, "Mother, I love you," which wasn't out of the ordinary because he would stay up late, sometimes playing his games, you know, with his friends, and he happened to be going on vacation for 2 weeks that day. So, you know, it didn't set off any alarms in my head that he texted me during the middle of the night. I texted him back and he didn't respond. And when he didn't respond, I knew that something wasn't right.
These social media companies are making billions of dollars off of killing our kids. Okay? That's why they're making up all these arguments like, oh, this is impossible, and the government's trying to destroy, and they're trying to take away your First Amendment rights. They're lying to you. They're lying to you because they are making billions of dollars, which is why we're suing them, and it's why they're going to lose in those lawsuits, and because that's the only way to hit them. We have to hit them where it hurts, just like we did with opioid manufacturers, just like we did with tobacco companies. These are things that we are going to do. And over 80% of Utahns are in favor of what we're trying to do to limit kids and social media. The companies know how to do this. They can do it. It's not going to be foolproof, of course. Kids are going to find ways around it. Kids still find ways to smoke, right? But overall, it absolutely will make a difference and an impact. They could do this today. They don't need me to tell them to do this. If they were honest with Americans, if they cared at all about our kids, they would implement this right now. They all have the ability to do it. They absolutely have the ability to do it. But I know the argument. I know the constitutional argument. In the industry of online gaming, okay, these companies, online gaming companies, are doing this right now. They're doing it right now, and they're doing it state specifically, right? They can tell now. Sure, you can get a VPN and find ways around it. There are always ways around this stuff, but by and large, it's harder to gamble online in Utah than it is in other states where it's legal. It's also very, very hard for minors to gamble in Utah or other states, and so they can do this. They can do this in a constitutional way. Yes, I admit that there are ways around it. We're already seeing it with the pornography stuff, right? They've shut down. Some sites have shut down in Utah, but not other places. So again, a red herring. I keep throwing these at me. This is fun. This is great. Let's keep going. Keep making up ways this can't work when it's really simple. It can work. It exists, and we may have to go to the Supreme Court to prove it.
She messaged me in the morning and just asked, "Hey, is Jordan at your house? Did he go to school?" And I had just getting up. It was around 7:30. We were just getting up, and our girls were mingling around, getting ready for the day before school, and I kind of caught me as odd because typically he'd already been gone. School starts at like 7:20, so usually he's gone at 7:15.
Because he's got his own car. You don't have to take him to school. He's almost 18.
I don't see him during the week. He's school,
his typical,
work, practice, comes home at 10:30, says hi, eats something, goes to bed.
Sure.
So I got up and I peeked out the window and I saw his car in the driveway, which I thought was odd. So I'm like, oh, he slept in today. I went into his bedroom and I found him in his bedroom in his bed. He shot himself at approximately 3:45 in the morning, and I happened to be up going to the restroom at the same time, and I heard the shot, but it didn't compute with me. I was in the middle of the night, half sleeping, and it startled me, and I thought about it for a second, and it didn't sound like a gunshot for sure. It was loud, and so I didn't know if he just kicked something over in his room or spilled something or whatever, and so I just went back to bed. As you start processing that, it's the big question is why, and when you ask what's going through your head, it was why. It was just why?
Right.
And we had no idea.
The people that were speaking with Jordan on Instagram, they sent one of the photos to Jordan's girlfriend at the time, and she contacted us and let us know, and we let the detectives know, and they took it from there.
So these people pretended to be a girl and took pictures, he sent pictures and money.
He did. He sent them $300.
I believe we sent him money multiple times.
How long was this
Different
going on? Do we have any idea?
6 hours.
6 hours.
He received his first text message about a minute before he pulled in the driveway at 10:15 the night before, when he pulled in the driveway, we crossed paths on in my patio out front of the house. I was running into my garage to put something in my truck, and I happened to run into him, and that was the last time I saw him before I went to bed that night. And he had just received his first text message, and all it said was hi.
How did we not know about the extortion and that this was happening? How could this happen to my son?
Did you even know it was a thing? I don't know that I even knew that this was even...
Maybe way in the back of my head, but not to this extent where they are pressuring young kids, young adults, and asking for the amounts of money that they are. I had no idea that it was going to that point.
It's not a surprise that this stuff is going on. I guess I didn't realize that there was an actual term for it with sextortion. That was new to me.
Right.
There's a lot of embarrassment in this stuff, but in our case, this is the story that needs to be told, and people need to know about this, especially parents, because they don't know what's going on on social media with their kids. They don't.
And you can take all the precautions.
All of them. Every single one. Yeah. If you put me in a room with 10,000 parents, I guarantee you I was the number one parent monitoring and locking things down to make sure this stuff didn't happen. And he was close to being an adult, or if not an adult, in Michigan, and he was. He could have moved out that day, and I would have been totally fine with him being on his own because he was ready. And that's not the same thing for the 14-year-olds and the 10-year-olds and the 12-year-olds and the 16-year-olds and the 15-year-olds. And they don't stand a chance with this stuff right now that's going on, especially if their parents don't understand technology, don't use it. They're really at risk.
I would like to see legislation go through that would hold social media companies accountable for things like this happening on their platforms. More protections in place for children. We want to just create awareness out there for parents and teens. If you think it can't happen to you, I wouldn't think that it would happen to my son, but it did. And I can't save him, but maybe we can save some other kids by sharing his story.
Because it sounds like Jordan was the kind of kid that he wouldn't want to embarrass you. He wouldn't want to, and maybe that's why he didn't feel like he could come forward. Is that what you think? Is that he wanted to always do right, and he felt like maybe this was wrong and it would be embarrassing to his family?
That's why these criminals target these types of youth and adults, for that matter. It's happening to adults too. And it wasn't just some dude or gal sitting behind a computer in wherever doing this. This was a conspiracy. These were adult males, multiple, 3 of them, conspiring together, working together. One is talking to Jordan, one is building fake pictures, the other is a money person. All these people were working together that night to victimize Jordan. These 3 guys from the other side of the planet came into my home, was secured while we were sleeping, and murdered my son. And that happened because social media platforms gave them a place to do it. Section 230 sounds good, but we need to put some parameters on that. Like, we'll give you that protection, but you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Like, not allow kids on your platforms. Like, verify your users. Do you know how many, if you and I sat in a room together and just went and made fake Gmail accounts and then passed it over to our next partner who took those 200 Gmail accounts and then created 500 fake social media accounts, we could do that in a couple hours.
Sure. Yeah.
But until they start being serious about verifying their identity of users and paying attention to what's happening on their platforms, then this stuff's going to keep happening. We had no idea. I mean, we were banging our head against the wall trying to feel like, were they going to, was he and his girlfriend going to break up? Was this a girl thing? Did he did he do something he wasn't supposed to do? I mean, what happened? So when we heard what happened, it's like that was the answer. You know, it wasn't the one we wanted. It wasn't going to change anything or provide closure. It was just an answer, right? So we had the giant question mark. In the preliminary investigation, it was just a normal suicide, you know?
Yeah.
Everything was there, it was classic, and case closed until this one picture surfaced that changed everything for us. Once they investigated just Jordan's case, when they went into Jordan's case and then peeled back the layers of the onion, found out who these guys were, and then reverse tracked all their fake accounts and all their IP addresses and stuff, then they found out who all the people they were victimizing, and there was hundreds of them. I think 130 or something like that. So Jordan wasn't the only one that night, so they're just out banging on all these doors until someone bites, and then they start narrowing it down. They probably had 3 or 4 people that night they were working.
And once you bite, so Jordan just bit a little more.
Yeah, he's talking to Jordan, he's talking to this person, he's talking to that person. Then other people in the background are going through and researching Jordan and these other people and finding out their connections. And then he's pulling off Jordan's best friend because he's got 1,700 photos with him, and then they probably try to track, you know, it's just, it goes on until they get money.
How would they just pick Jordan? Why Jordan? And your answer was perfect. Is look at him. He's a good-looking kid. He's got all these things going for him. So just, you know, talk about that again. He's on the football team. He's all these things.
He played sports. He had several pictures with friends, with his girlfriend. He was the homecoming king. When
these criminals are picking their victims, Jordan is the perfect victim. He really was. He's the all-American kid. Yeah. And it looked like he had everything together, and he did. And they capitalize on that. And those are the pinch points where they go in and professionally victimize and extort. But if you don't have anything, you can't be victimized. They pick out the ones that have things to lose. They appear to have life in order, and they find that person. They profile that person to be in a box where if this happens to them, they know that they have to give money, or else their whole life is over. After Jordan, after knowing him, after knowing his story, the kids are still doing it. So that's an even more powerful driver for me, because we just have to push this harder, faster, longer, broader.
6 hours is not a long time, and you mentioned it's less than that. Sometimes it's 3 hours.
Yeah, Jordan's case was a little bit longer than most of these tragedies that we've heard. They've been a little bit quicker. But there is some things that parents can do to help mitigate this, even with just basic social media and technology awareness. But the one thing that was shared with us by the FBI, which was something I didn't really consider at the time either, that I also took to heart, was we need to be better at not allowing our kids to be seclusive on their devices, meaning not in their bedrooms, not in the basement, not out in the garage, not in the treehouse. When you're allowing your children to be on social media, if you are, or at least even being on technology, it should be in the living room where everybody else is, in the kitchen, at the table, places where they're not quiet and inclusive by themselves, because that's when they become victimized, and that's when they start shutting down and they don't know how to handle things. So we need to be upfront, let children use the stuff, but let's do some things like not allowing them to be buried in their rooms doing it privately.
The Utah Social Media Regulation Act, or SMRA, I had to read it out there, that's being proposed by a state department to basically put additional restrictions on where social media companies have to verify children. They have to allow parents access to their children's accounts, those under 18 if I'm correct. Now, playing devil's advocate, some would say that's a restriction on the liberty of businesses, on how they conduct businesses. Certain social media companies have to retool their sites just for Utah, and also on parents to parent their children. How would you respond to that?
Sure. Thanks, Chris, for giving me that opportunity. So I just want to clarify one thing. So this is not a department that is putting these, this new law in place. This was a law that was passed by the legislature and signed into effect by me. It doesn't take effect until March, I think, of this coming year. There will probably be some tweaks during the legislative session, and the feedback is important. So what happened is we passed this law that does require age verification for social media accounts, and then requires these companies to remove some of the most addictive features and harmful features that again, research and data is showing is literally killing our kids. The significant increases in anxiety, depression, and self-harm that we're seeing as a direct result of kids who are spending much more time on social media, and the dangerous content and addictive features that are on social media. Now, what that law did, though, was require this department to implement that law and to put rules in place. So it said, go out and find what are the best technologies, different technologies, figure out how to do this piece that we're requiring you to do. Now, I think this is important. You said that this may be an undue influence on businesses, that it'll make things more difficult for them. Look, there is no other industry in the world where we allow companies to contract with minors to harvest their data. You can't do it. You can't contract with minors, right? And yet, for some reason, we've allowed this to happen. So this isn't something that is unlike things we do in this country. We just don't allow this. I don't know why we've thought it's okay with social media. And so we're also not taking the place of parents at all. In fact, we're empowering parents. That's the very point of this, is to give parents the ability to monitor what is happening with their kids, to monitor what these companies are doing to our kids, and the content that they're providing. And so I think that's a really important distinction. I will also say that we've made this not very onerous at all. All of these technologies, there are a whole bunch of different ways that they can do age verification. They're doing this in other countries right now. Many of these companies already, and claiming like it can't be done here, but they're already doing it. This is very easy. And the fact that it's just Utah will be changing very soon. I can tell you that this is the most bipartisan issue I've worked on in a long, long time. When President Biden came here to the state of Utah, the first thing he wanted to do was talk to me about the bills that we were able to get done, because he wants these done in Congress as well. I have had calls from members of Congress, both in the House and in the Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, who are very interested in what we're doing and want to do something similarly. So look, if you think we shouldn't have prevented kids from buying cigarettes, then you probably won't like this bill. But this is not something new, and it's not that burdensome. It's something that they can do, and we're going to keep pushing forward.